Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to The Walk. Today is Tuesday, March 25th, and yesterday we saw that Gog and Magog are going to come in and that they are going to be absolutely annihilated, that there will be so much weaponry and so much of their armor that it will just be used as fuel for the fires, and that God would be providing for the Israelites that fuel. So they no longer even have to cut down any trees to be able to have a fire. Well, that brings us to Ezekiel 39, verse 11, and it says, "On that day I will give to Gog a place for burial in Israel, the valley of the travelers east of the sea. It will block the travelers, for there Gog and all his multitude will be buried. It will be called the Valley of Hamon Gog." I got really interested in all these different names for the burial place. It's a place for burial, it's the Valley of the Travelers, it's east of the sea. Well, when I started to analyze all of this and look for information and read a bunch of commentary, basically they're just synonyms for a place where all this multitude of people will be buried. Valley of the Travelers is a place where people are buried in a large amount. East of the sea, place where they're going to be buried in a large amount. Well, the Cultural Study Bible had an interesting note, and it said, "An absolute identification is uncertain for where this is. Scholars have identified it as the Valley of Travelers, or based upon ergoritic parallel, those who have passed on." So it's not that they're travelers that were killed and that's where they are. It's that they are traveling from this physical life into that spiritual realm. The latter makes the most sense. Gog has desired to be identified with the great kings of old. Now he is, since they are all dead. Ugaritic texts refer to a group called the Rephaim, who are beings of the netherworld. All right, so what's this Valley of Hamon Gog? Cultural Study Bible, again, had a note. And it says, "The dead bodies of the defeated army that invaded the land and the people of Israel will be buried in the valley that means hordes of Gog. This valley appears to play on the name of a valley next to Jerusalem, the Valley of Hinnom, notorious for the child sacrifices performed there." The explanatory note in verse 16 adds a clue in the localization of the burial ground for the enemies of the Lord of Israel. Association of the term Haman, which means clamor or hubris, with Jerusalem and three earlier judgment prophecies is especially instructive. The form Homona is linked with chapter 7, verse 12, where Hamana had functioned as shorthand for all of Jerusalem's notorious, riotous, defiant, and wicked behavior. So then we get to verse 12, and verse 12 says, "For 7 months the house of Israel will be burying them in order to cleanse the land." Now this armor we talked about yesterday would be burned for 7 years because there was such a huge amount of it. Now we're seeing for 7 months the house of Israel will be burying them in order to cleanse the land. Of course, piqued my interest. I started digging, started looking for some information. It could be representative of the Antichrist reign in the last half of the 7 years of tribulation, but there's a lot of debate around that. I wouldn't say that that's definitively what it is. It's just that that's an idea that's floating around out there. At the end of it, I really couldn't find an answer. The only thing I could really kind of assume is when I think about armor, there's many pieces for one person. So there's a lot more pieces of armor than there are people. Verse 13, "All the people of the land will bury them, and it will bring them renown on the day that I show my glory, declares the Lord God. They will set apart men to travel through the land regularly and bury those travelers remaining on the face of the land so as to cleanse it. At the end of 7 months, they will make their search. And when these travel through the land and anyone sees a human bone, then he shall set up a sign by it. till the buriers have buried it in the valley of Haman Gog. Hamanah is also the name of the city. Thus shall they cleanse the land. Okay, how are they cleansing this land? They're burying the people that came in to invade them and take them over. They're burying them. They're burying them in this valley. And on top of that, they're splendid, they're beautiful, their magnificent armor is burned because it's no more useful than the fuel for a fire. That is how significant God's victory is over Gog and Magog. Don't think that God's not in control, because he definitely is. Have a wonderful day. God bless, and keep walking the walk.